I don't know. I don't really have much of an opening statement. It's like, life in the Big Ten. Like, there's game after game after game, and they're all challenging. They're all tough. We need to, like, prepare ourselves to win every single game, and then we need to execute our plan, and then we need to go out and try and do it. And, we've been in 2 straight, pretty tough environments at Ohio State, at Iowa, and then, it gets tougher at Indiana. So we just have to prepare the same exact way. We got to put ourselves in position to win, and then we need to execute in terms of what we're doing. So, back to work today, and see what we can do to get better.
Mike, in the post-game presser, you seem pretty frustrated with the second half effort. How do you rectify something like that compared to sort of, a tactical situation where you guys don't meet the bar?
Yeah. At about 3 o'clock today, they're going to watch some of it. So, right, that changes some things when you see yourself not doing it. That kind of changes some things, or it brings some clarity to it. So, I don't know, they kind of flipped it on us. It was something that was important to us going into that game, the rebounding part. And, I just didn't think we had the same effort level in terms of our focus, I guess, the same focus level in doing what we had to do to keep them off the glass in the second half. And then, they got going, right? That was one thing we talked about was, they have a great home environment, and they had a sold-out crowd, and, it's hard to play there. But if you don't turn the basketball over where they're getting run-out layups, now the crowd's getting into it because they're pressing. You don't give up offensive rebounds where they're scoring and they're getting momentum and the crowd's getting into it. Like, I felt like we did a good job of that in the first half of keeping the crowd completely out of the game. But we didn't maintain our focus. And, it's something in the area where we have to get better. But at the end of the day, like, I told our guys in the locker room, like, they outcoached us. Like, Fran McCaffrey outcoached me. Their starters outplayed our starters. Their bench outplayed our bench. Like, I thought Chelsea was pretty good. So she probably came back with a win. But, like, the rest of us need to be better. And from the top to the bottom, we all need to be better.
Micah, I've seen some teams who've been able to reschedule non-conference games that they lost. Is that a possibility? And can you also speak to the challenges of playing 3 road games in a row in this conference?
Yeah. We looked into it. We looked into trying to do that to get some, especially once Minnesota got canceled, trying to find some opponents that we could get on short notice. Then we weren't able to do it. Then, we're at the kind of the mercy of the Big Ten of when we play that game. So we can't go back and schedule a non-conference game without knowing when they're going to squeeze the Minnesota game in. So that handcuffs us as well. So we can't, we can't take a date away from the Big Ten that they may possibly put Minnesota in there. So we're kind of stuck with what we got right now. I'd love to play more and give our guys some more games at home. It stinks that we get 3 straight on the road, but, like, you got to play it. Like, nobody's going to, nobody feels sorry for us, right? We can't feel sorry for ourselves either. Like, we got to prepare to go and win. And if we do it, if we play hard for 40 minutes, if we focus for 40 minutes, we can do it. Like, we can go there and win on Wednesday. But you have to be better than somebody on the road. You can't just be average. You got to be better than them on the road, and that's what we need to do. So we'll just wait and see when we play Minnesota.
Micah, you guys are playing Iowa twice in 9 days. Does kind of the game plan change when you have such a short turnaround time on a rematch like that?
Not too much. You go back and you look at what went right and what went wrong, and you try and make small adjustments in that. But I don't think you can totally flip in terms of what you do. There's areas that we can look at and clean up and be better. There's things I thought we did well. Now we just need more of it. So when it's such a quick turnaround, there's no drastic measures that you do. You just say, hey, we can't turn the ball over as much. We can't send them to the free throw line. We got to keep them off the offensive glass, and the rest of the stuff, keep doing it.
Every team in America is going to miss shots, going to have a game where they have a lot of turnovers. It just happens when you have a long season. But good teams, it seems that the frequency at which those happen is less and less. What are the variables that lead to decreasing those frequencies between games, like the sort of inevitable clunkers that come along the way?
Yeah. We've always kept a kind of a defensive mindset since we've started practice. And I think, you're seeing that with our team. I think that's what's helping us stay in games. Right now, our problem is our offense. Our offense hasn't been very good. And, that's where we're going to get to work here in the next few days, is trying to improve that. We gave them all those numbers when we came back from Christmas, and we were about 80th in the country in both. We were right around the same area, offensively and defensively. Our defense is actually 59th in the country now, but now our offense is 105th. So, we're getting worse in that area. So we need to focus on that. Like, how do we be better? Our defense will keep you from sustaining those long stretches. But now, how do we be better so we don't have those long stretches? It's really hard to we'll go in stretches where we're really guarding and we're getting stops, but we're not scoring, right? And then it flips and where you start scoring, but then you can't get stops. So, that's what the Iowa game was. They were dusting us in the first, 4 minutes of the game. They scored 14 points. They scored 16 more the rest of the half, and then in the second half starts, we're back even. Then, they start getting those offensive rebounds while we're scoring. So we're scoring, we have a chance to come back and crack into that margin, but now we're not doing it on the other end. So the consistency of continuing to guard even through struggles, but continuing to guard even through the good times as well is what we need. So we're going to get to work on fixing our offense so we don't have those long ruts.
And I'm kind of curious, you've coached on some really good teams, the guys that have had a lot of success, have had a lot of talent. I imagine coaching a team like that is different than, and I want to say this in the most accurate way possible, guys that are different than maybe Jason Tatum's a different basketball player than Miles Dredd. And that's not a knock on Miles. They're different kinds of players. They've got different kinds of skill sets and talent levels and things like that. How does coaching adjust as you sort of work with what you have and making that better rather than just doing the same thing for all the different guys?
Yeah, you have to do, I think part of coaching is doing, adjusting to what your team does well. And that changes. That can change from thing to thing in terms of, this is something that at the start of the year, hey, this is something that I thought we would do well. And now you play a few games, you're like, okay, we're not very good at that. We need to adjust that and move to something else. When you have good individual players, sometimes they can bail you out, right? You don't have to be perfect because at the end of the day, Jason Tatum can go make a play for you and go score. You don't always have that in college. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You have to adjust and figure out, what do we do best? And now let's get to more of that. I think that's where our struggles are lying right now. We don't do enough of what we do best. And you see it in short spurts. Now it's about continuing that throughout the whole game. So I guess hopefully that answered your question on that.
Yeah, so kind of backtracking to Saturday here. You held the conference's leading scorer to just 15 points in 40 minutes of play. Are you happy with that, your defensive effort there? And, how do you tackle some of those other offensive pieces that Iowa has next time you play them?
Yeah. I was one of the teams that really puts you in a bind because they can get scoring from the perimeter from their 4 and their 5 position, right? When they put, both Murray brothers out there, Chris is obviously sorry, I'm getting confused here. Keegan is a really good player. Chris is 24. Yes. Keegan is the one that puts pressure on you, right? He posts at the rim. He can step out and score. Like he's going to get his name called. One of the top 10 picks this year. His brother, like, goes a little bit under the radar, but like he puts you in a bind because he sets so many screens that you have to help on some of those guys that are curling the rim. Now he's popping out, catching and shooting threes. He's popping out, catching and driving it. Like, you don't face that very much in the Big Ten. Like, you don't see it very much. And it puts pressure on guys that aren't used to guarding on the perimeter in terms of, now I have to help, but then I got to get back out to this guy, take away his shot, and take away his drive. And that's part of the reason why Iowa's so good. They got guys that can shoot, but they also got big guys that kind of put you in a bind a little bit. So, I felt like we did a good job of taking away some of their stuff, but he got loose a little bit and got some threes after he was setting back screens and popping and kind of put us in long closeouts with our bigs. So, that might be something we have to adjust a little bit. Like when they have both those brothers in the game, that we may have to change a couple of different things to keep those guys from popping and shooting in those openings.
Hey, Micah, thanks for your time. Are you happy with the pace that you guys are playing with on offense right now?
I think it can always get better. We're not attacking enough in transition when we have the opportunities. Like, we're getting stops. We're getting a lot of stops. Like, our defense is playing well. But we're not running. We need sprinters. That's part of, if you would come and sit through our film session today, you'd see some of that. Of like, I don't know, you go back to our Indiana game. It was January 2nd, feels like 3 moons ago. But like we got some transition corner threes because we were sprinting in transition and we were getting the ball down the floor a little bit. We haven't done that in the last few games. That's an area where I think we need to improve. But it's also like, as a coach, you feel like there's an area that you need to improve in, and you like attack that area. And it's like the old cartoon, and you put your finger in there and the water starts shooting out the other way, right? That's your biggest fear. That's my biggest fear as a coach. We talk about offense here for, today and tomorrow. We need to be better going into IU, and now, they scored 60 points when they were here the last time. Do we focus so much on offense they get 75, right? And then it's all for naught. Then we got to go back to doing the other stuff. Like, you have to be able to do everything. Our transition, our pace doesn't become much of a factor if we're scoring, if we're getting better shots, which we need to do more. If we're not turning the basketball over, we're getting more opportunities. We're probably scoring more points. So I don't think playing at a really crazy pace would be the best thing for us, though, especially not Iowa, Indiana. Like, you're giving the other team more opportunities as well. And, like, I love our team, but, if we were drafting, where's our first guy get picked? We're, going through the Big Ten and drafting people. Like, who's getting picked? Who's getting picked in the top 10? I don't know that. Like, I haven't looked at it, but I know there's 3 dudes who are going to get picked in the NBA top 10. So they're probably going 1, 2, 3. And you're probably throwing in a Zach Edey or Kofi Coburn, a Travion Williams, Chris Murray, a Brad Davison, Andre Curbelo. I could probably keep going if you want me to. Ron Harper, Geo Baker. Like, we're not at the top of the shop in terms of talent level. So we need to do what we can to stay in it.
Hey, Coach, what does the upcoming Coaches vs. Cancer game cause mean to you?
For me, it's a cause that since I've gotten here, it's been something that's been important, for myself, for my family. My wife lost her mother to cancer. My mom is a cancer survivor, and she'll actually be in town for the game. Both of my parents are coming in town for the game, and I believe it's February 1st, right? January 31st, so right close to then. It's an important cause. I think it's a way for us as a team and a program to do a small part, for helping the CVC Penn State organization. And, it's all I can do, like to get the, to kind of get the word out in terms of what we're doing as an organization, but also say thank you to the people that have helped, to the people that are on the committee that are spending, volunteering their time, but also the people that have donated to this cause as well. So it's a big game. We want to play well, but we want to play well for the people that are coming, and like I said, get momentum going and building up towards the events that are coming after the game as well.
Micah, to go back to what Ben asked earlier, what do you think you guys do best offensively, and what's preventing you from being more aggressive with that, I guess?
I don't know. There's probably like small details in terms of what we need to do better. Like, I think our screening needs to improve, whether that's ball screens or screens off the ball. I think that all needs to get better. So like small technical things of like angles in terms of where we're setting our ball screens, how we're setting our down screens and everything else. I think that creates help opportunities for the other teams. And that's what we're not getting to. We're allowing too many people to go under screens. Now they don't have to help. Now you're never playing against a closeout, which is where we can be really good at, right? Now we're getting threes, or we're playing off our shot fake, we're driving, we're making decisions. Those are all things that are helpful. So we got to get back to screening the right way, to get downhill and get into the paint. We were a really good team scoring in the paint early in the season, getting to the rim, scoring more, which draws help. Now we're kicking out and we're getting threes. We haven't gotten help very much. We haven't broken the defenses down through that, and part of that goes back to our screening and getting open shots or causing help.
You mentioned working on one thing and the other thing sort of dropping off a little bit. You're not the first coach that I've heard say that, and I've always wondered what the reason is for that. If you work on corner threes and screens for a week and then work on zone defense the next week, why do your screens and corner threes get worse from a week off with a bunch of guys that have played basketball their entire lives? I mean, what is you're not making this up, it clearly happens.
Yeah.
What is the thing that leads to that?
I don't know. It's probably the same reason why I tell my kids to take trash out at 8. Then at 11, the trash is still sitting in the same spot. I mean, kids lose focus. Kids lose, they forget what they tell you or what you tell them. You have to constantly do things over and over to get it ingrained. And that's part of it's almost like that's where the teaching of, instead of being a coach, that's where you become a teacher. Like the things that you emphasize are the things that you become. So, but you can't emphasize everything, right? So it's like, what's the most important things that you need to emphasize? Because you're going to get good at those. But if you can't put that same emphasis on something else, it just drifts to the back of their mind. And I wish I was some kind of psychologist or something like that, and I'd be able to figure out the best way they learn or the best way to retain and the best way to continue to do stuff. But it also gets to now, once we start getting later in the season, we don't get as much practice time. Like we do, but guys are banged up. We're playing more games, so we shorten, because we got to get to the games and we got to be fresh. So you're shortening your time to practice. So you're really squeezing, this is the most important stuff, right? And then at the same time, they're focused on different things about our defense or our offense. And then you also got to prepare for Indiana. So they're like, okay, well, Trace Jackson does this, or I could be guarding Race Thompson. He does this. Hey, on this play, we're going to do this. And now you're starting to get up there into the amount of things that they're, intaking into their brains. From 3 to 6, they're doing classwork at the same time. They're going to class, they're doing other stuff. So from the morning until practice, and then once practice is over, who knows what's being inputted into that brain, right? It's like my video games. I got different songs, Gunna's new album, all that stuff. So there's only so much that can be retained at one time. I know I'm not very smart, and I can't remember a lot of things. So I I feel for these guys. Thank you, guys.